Okay, so now we're back up top again. We got our fuel lines and everything hooked up, so now we got to, this is again the system we're going to use. It's the EFI system with external CDI box with timing control. So that means we're going to use timing from the FiTech is going to control our timing. So we have the coolant sensor plugged in. We have the oxygen sensor hooked up and plugged in. And remember we plugged in the distributor, so that worked. The coil is already hooked to our CDI box from previously, but that's just hooked up per the directions of your box. And now we have our fuel pump is hooked up to that orange wire. That's done as well. So now we need to hook our power wire up, and then the yellow wire for the fan control, and that says fan relay ground. So we have to hook up that to the ground side of the relay, and I'll show you how to do that. Let's hook that up right now. Okay, so most relays have the diagram on them. So basically 86, 85 are your magnet, and the magnet is going to pull, so it just positive, negative, doesn't matter which way, and the magnet's just going to pull number 30 down to connect to 87. So if you have a 5-pin, which is the 87A, which is in the middle, it's normally just with nothing hooked up, 30 is connected to 87A. Just normally with nothing hooked up. If you were to hook an ohm reader on 30 to 87A, these two are connected right now, as it's just sitting here as an empty relay. So then when you put power and negative, power and ground to 86 and 85 in either order, it will, the magnet that you create will pull that terminal down to 87, and so that's what a relay does. So this is a 60 amp. I wouldn't trust that. It's not 60 amps. 30 amps is probably about as much as you'd get through this relay before it melted. I can't believe they actually write 60 amps on that. But anyway, and that's what's going to control your fan. So ours, the FiTech system, and I think it's actually pretty common across most of these EFI systems, if they're controlling a fan, they're gonna switch the ground on the magnet side. So you would hook, probably just power to 86, and then you would hook the trigger wire that comes from the EFI to 85, or vice versa. It doesn't matter which way. You'll hook power, like just a good battery source, to 30, and then your fan to 87. And you won't have anything on 87A. You won't actually use 87A in this situation. So that's what we're going to do, and that's how we're going to wire it. Okay, all we're doing right now is I'm just running the wires to the general area of where they go. And then Akila is going to bundle up this blue wire. The blue wire, in our situation, we're not using it. It would go to the TAC normally, but it wouldn't work in our situation because we're using the CDI box. So we have to use its TAC lead. So it says right here, it's not used. So she's just bundling it up right now nicely and just getting it out of our way. And then we just have, we have like 4 wires to hook up. And then we're about ready to start it, other than I'm a little behind. I got to put the starter on it. I don't have the starter on it yet, and then I'm going to have to bypass the neutral safety switch inside, I believe, because I don't believe it's going to work. Since we did the manual swap, I'm going to have to probably just splice 2 wires together, I believe. So I'm going to have to look into that, though. Okay, so we don't need, in our situation, well, in most people's situation, this Intellitronics CDI box, we don't need the direct connect to the distributor anymore. And instead of cutting it off, I'm just going to go ahead and remove it from the pigtail that comes with it. And these are the tools that release this style. It's really easy. You just pull the back off, which the 2 tabs, and then it pins back. And then you just push that over it, and it just pushes right out. Just like that. Now we do need, I had originally cut that one off, but now we do need that. So that's the wire that's going to go to this is the points input into our Intellitronics, and that's what the FiTech wants to use. So we just connect its white wire to this white wire, which is pretty common across the board. MSD's is white as well. So then just clip that back, and you'd be in business. I'm actually going to put plugs in there. But if you don't have plugs, you can just put dielectric grease in there. I actually have some plugs to plug those off, so they're just sealed. Okay. Okay, this is the piece, if you can see it. Those are the plugs. They're just a plug and they'll stick out the back. You'll see factory connectors will have these same things in there. So you just put them in, the small end goes out. Just push them in like that. And there you have it. Now you're all sealed up and you won't corrode the other end of the connector. Okay, so now just to make it easier, it's just tied up right now. But I'm just going to extend off this wire and then we'll trim it down where it's easier to get to. We tied these up, Akila tied them up out of the way so they wouldn't keep falling. I was so wrong. I misled you completely. The black wire goes to the white wire, not the white wire to the white wire. White wire goes to the key. That's how when you turn it on. So you probably caught that from earlier. I think I told you, but this is a new day for me, so good thing they label it. Alright, we're going to run through the tack wire through the dash and then hook it up to the tack wire on the Intellitronics. Okay, now I'm just hooking up the vacuum ports. All we run on this thing is, for now anyway, is the brake booster to the one big port on the back and then the PCV valve on the other port in the back. The diagram for all the vacuum ports is in the beginning of the user manual. It's pretty simple. Okay, so we're kind of in the part of the video now where we're gonna get into programming this thing for first start. And spoiler alert, it already happened. And we're gonna have to start all over and do it again. It's already filmed. I'm doing this all after the fact. But what you're seeing now is attempt number 2. So it turns out we had a bad, the balancer we put on that thing, it was printed backwards and we didn't notice that it was printed backwards. So the advance was on the retard side of the line, which was confusing. And then the whole scale on it is not even in the right spot. It was like 90 degrees. So we had an absolute heck of a time getting it running the first time. And then we just started yelling at it, and the filming just went aside. So anyway, I got it running the next day, and I'm going to show you that now. But there's a reason why I had to go about it in a little bit different way, and we reset the distributor and stuff. So here it is. Okay, I got a little borescope. I've actually had this thing for quite a while, and this is the first time I've ever really tried it. But it's Wi-Fi, and it goes to your phone. So I was laying under the truck and I would just raise the piston up until it would just go beyond center, make a mark, rotate it backwards the other direction until it would go just beyond top dead center and then make a mark. And I just kept trying to move it ever so slightly and just get back and forth until I was dead center in the middle. So I just kept making marks so I knew while I was turning it exactly where I was in relationship to the piston. And find top dead center that way. Then I go up top and just make a mark on the balancer where it was. I ended up being we were about 70 degrees advanced on the crank. The blue mark there that you can see, that is where the number 1 piston was. So that's why it was running, giving us such troubles yesterday. It ran, believe it or not, it actually started. But it was really hard on the starter to do that for some reason. And so anyway, we need to pull it out and redrop it. We're going to just shoot for about 10 degrees advanced, because that'll be about where we'd like it, because we're never going to run below 10 degrees. So I'm just going to kind of set it at 10, and that'll be my reference point. And that's what we're going to tell the computer later, is that we set the initial timing at 10 degrees. And that's that. Here I'm just showing the priming pump. I'm going to use it instead of rotating the engine. I'm going to just cheat and take the distributor out, then turn the oil pump back a little bit, and then drop the distributor in. And I'm going to do it that way so that the distributor will drop all the way in, so that I don't have to rotate the motor just to get the distributor to drop in the oil pump. Okay, so we're ready to go. I'm going to turn on the ignition system the first time, and this is where you would be checking for fuel leaks. I've already done that, so I'm going to skip that part, but now is the time. So I'm going to go turn the ignition on, and we'll get through the initial setup. So this is the main menu, is what you go to when it's just anytime you turn this thing on. You can even use this while the engine's not on. You just won't be able to program the engine. So you want to go GFI initial setup, go to engine setup. It's also touch screen. I thought I was able to reset this, but I'm not, so we're just going to go through it again now. So set your engine cylinders, and you can just move that. And apparently you can only do a 10 cylinder or an 8 cylinder. Losing my suction cup. So move that to 8. I just like to send it every time I adjust something, so just by pressing straight in. And then adjust it to your cubic inches. Mild to wild cam. So the cams are, stock is 1, anything above stock is 2, and then use your judgment from 3 to 4. I think most, if you're driving on the street, a 2, it'll be a 2. Unless it's a stock cam, then do 1. Your rev limiter, it'll actually rev limit, so just choose that. You just select it by going side to side. Or if it's way off, you can press edit, and then actually just type it in there. So you don't have to scroll the whole way. And then your idle RPM when it's warm, you set that. I'm going to choose 770. That I think should be good for this thing, but you can obviously make it whatever you want. Just ignore that for now. And then this is your tack or 2-wire. And what that means is the FiTech just reading it as a tack, or is it actually adjusting the timing? And that depends on how. If you're going to have the FiTech controlling your timing, you're going to go the VR coil, which is the 2-wire coil. Otherwise, it's tack, and that's where it's just reading the RPM, so it knows what the RPM is, but it's not actually going to be controlling it. And then VR coil is the way we set it up, so that it's controlling the timing. So now I just send it to the computer, and for some reason didn't respond because I unplugged it during my phasing, so I came unplugged there. So now we're done there. So now go back. I always like to go back into engine setup and make sure. Don't worry about if your RPM or your engine cubic inches slightly changes for some reason. Just leave it alone. You're not going to get it. I'd probably have to go to 467. It's just in a calculation table, so don't worry about if it dropped by 1 or whatever. Don't worry about trying to get it right. Now go into ignition setup. So your distributor base timing, that's where you set your timing at, and that's roughly around where we did. I was thinking we were going to be 11 to 12, so somewhere in there. So we'll just say it's 10.8. We're going to adjust that here in a little bit. And then your locked spark adjust, so that's when you lock it. It's going to set 30 degrees, and so you have to go and read 30 degrees when you lock it right here. So it's best to do it farther advanced, just to make sure that it's actually going to run that far advanced, as long as you're not detonating, just to make sure you have a good sweep in make sure your rotor is centered at the distributor, since it's in a fixed location right now. And then your VR drift, just leave that alone for now. I think yours is going to be somewhat higher. I must have dirt on my, oh, I got a hair on it. We'll blame Bob. Okay, so now just leave that drift. It's going to be around 10. But just leave it for now for your initial startup, because you honestly have no idea right now. So now your idle setup, again, your idle speed. You can reset your idle air control learn, and that's something we don't need to do right now. But if for some reason your idle air control valve is running later at like 100%, that means that we need to adjust the butterfly valves like you would on a carburetor with setting your idle screw. It has an idle screw as well. You're just going to get it so that the idle air control valve is within a range that idle air control valve can actually work. So we're going to go ahead and not do anything with that stuff yet. Now fan setup. This is, if you're using your fan controls, you have it wired to the relay. Remember the yellow wire to the ground terminal on the coil side of the relay. This is your on temp and then your off temp. So I had set mine yesterday at 174 and 54. You can make it whatever you want. This has a 195 thermostat in it. So I just decided to turn my fans on a little early because I was worried about it getting hot. I did just upgrade our fan though, so hopefully we won't get hot again. I'm going to leave it alone for now, and we'll see how it does. And that's it. You're in. Oh, fan setup. Don't forget to send it. Always send it, and you will forget to do that a few times. I do quite often actually. Oh. It's at an awkward angle for me. Okay, so that is that. So now we are in through our initial setup. That's all you have to do. I'm going to go to large gauges, and then you can turn on different gauges, and it'll just say either large. Oh, I already have 4, so you'd have to turn one off if you wanted your map sensor or whatever you want to show. And once you have your 4 selected, there's a lot of them. Just press enter. And it's going to go into that. So that's going to be how I start it. So I'm going to go ahead and start it now. Hopefully it will. Okay, so it's doing its initial run out. It has a lot of, I did reset its learn, so it's learning all over again. And then obviously our timing was way off before, so it has to relearn everything. So I'm just gonna let it run for a little bit and watch everything and make sure everything is good. Just let it in idle. And that was basically a complete dry start. Even though I had this thing running before, yours should start similar to that. We struggled yesterday starting, but that was because we were 80 degrees advanced. So obviously that was going to be a struggle to start. So you can hear my rockers are a little loose on this thing. I think I need longer push rods. They felt a little loose when I installed them, but I figured they'd be okay, but I think we need to go a little bit tighter. They're unadjustable. You just have to get longer push rods. So it's going to bounce around quite a bit while on the first startup. Don't worry about that. It's trying to get, it has a heated oxygen sensor, so it's trying to find where it needs to be right now by adjusting things and doing its own cables. Okay, so it's running really well. It's warmed up. My fans have come on. So it's, I don't know where we're idling at. Let's look real quick. Around 800 right now. Actually on that same dashboard we can see where our idle air control valve is. Idle air control valve. So we're within range, so we're okay. If you get 100% on that, then we need to make an adjustment to your throttle plate. So it's within range, so we're okay. So go down to from your main menu, so go back all the way, go down to Go EFI Tuning, and let's adjust our spark maps. There's a number of ways to get into it. This allows you to adjust everything, so we'll go ahead and do that. So my idle advance right now is 10.9. I'm going to go ahead and turn it up a little bit. I had that way down. That feels pretty good. Okay, so the bottom two here, 10 and 11, that's spark adjusts to number. You can make that whatever you want. That doesn't do anything. That's just for you setting your timing. And then lock timing to set. So right now it's unlocked. It's actually varying the timing, but we want to double check it with our timing light. So I'm going to say lock, send it, and you hear the RPMs kind of go up. That's because we're running 30 degrees right now on timing. So now we can go look on our timing light to make sure we're actually running 30 degrees. Camera. So you can see the white mark to the left of the pointer. The pointer's to the right of that bolt you're looking at. So we were, oops, that's 30 degrees right there. So if I line up the mark, so we're actually about 37 degrees. So I need to move the distributor to make those match up so that it's 0 at 30 degrees. So I'm going to do that, and I have my timing light set on 30. So now I just need to move my distributor. Since the computer wants 30, this is at 30, so now I need my marks to line up at zeros. So I'm going to loosen the distributor and adjust the distributor so that those two line up. And there we have it. It's as simple as that. So we should never have to touch timing on this again until All right, so we have a running and driving truck now. We obviously need to do some more fine tuning, especially the spark maps and all that stuff. And maybe I'll do a more detailed video on doing that. I am not a professional tuner though, so I think maybe I'll have Shane maybe do that video. He's much better at tuning and stuff than I am. So anyway, that is it. I'm trying to think. The idle air control valve, I will do a video on setting that. That's supposed to be between, I believe it was 3 and 10 or something like that, and ours in this situation is like at 30, which is way too high. So we need to set that. So I'll probably do a video, just a little video on setting your idle air control valve, because it's quite a little bit of a step or process. It would make this video too long. So we're out here now. I'm going to just cold start it. I haven't started this thing at all today, and it's the evening today. It's tax day tomorrow for us, and then we have everything else going on top of it. So let's give it a start, and you'll see how it'll start cold start. Not too bad. We can improve upon that. You heard it backfire a little bit, and that could be the timing, and that could also be the accelerator pump or cranking fuel. And that's all things that you can adjust on your own, through the computer. There's tons. The FiTech website has tons of manuals and stuff on doing all those small tuning features. But I think these two videos should get you going on getting your vehicle running and getting you to the point where you're just left with tuning stuff. Thanks for watching. Safari, well, we got gauges coming up next, and then we're back on the Safari. Our harness is shipped, so it's on the way for the engine. So we're about ready to start putting that car back together.